Welcome back to another episode of Playing Voodoo. I'm your host Derek, and today I will be recapping Australian Survivor Heroes vs. Villains episode 13. So for those of you that are familiar with our content, typically the first two episodes of the week for Australian Survivor, I will recap my 5 favorite moments of the episode. Later on in the week, I talk with Alex and we recap the week at hand, what went down, including the last episode of the week. I want to change it up this time around. So today, I think we've reached a point in the game where the dynamics of alliances and who's going to work with who moving forward is more important. So I'm going to be going through a list of players and what went down this episode and how I see their games moving forward. So this is going to be new, so bear with me. But I want to start off with talking about Haley. Yes, the lone hero that I do want to talk about today is Haley. She received word from George after the reward challenge that Nina was planning a blindside against her. Now, who was working with Nina? George didn't give that information, although George did know he didn't have time. Wow. So this is not the first time we've seen George and Haley speak to each other after or during challenges. We've seen it several other times earlier in the season, like when George mentioned to Haley where to find a hidden immunity idol. Didn't come to fruition for her, but seems like these two, the king and the queen from Australian Survivor Brain vs. Brawn, are going to be working together moving forward. And that seems like George really wants to work with Haley. Unlike what we saw, like I just mentioned, in their first season, they worked together a few times here and there. But for the most part, they were on opposite sides. So what do I make of this? So we're finally seeing some cracks forming within this new supervillains tribe, which is mostly comprised of former heroes. Haley probably didn't think she was on the bottom from what I gathered. She seemed quite shocked at the news that George gave her. We'll see where she takes it from here. I anticipate she'll kind of suss out who else might be working with Nina by asking some pointed questions here and there, maybe to Sean, maybe to Simon. But it might not matter because we have a merge coming in which she obviously now has people that she trusts on the other side, like George and possibly Liz. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I don't know how Haley's going to move going forward, but what we've seen so far is she's working very, very closely with Sean, probably using Sean as a shield per se, even though the biggest shield out there is probably either George because of his big character and or Haley because she is the only winner on this season. So what do I make of Nina and her little confessional that we got this week? We saw that she said she acknowledged that she saw George and Haley whispering after the challenge. Can only assume what they're chatting about, but probably not good news for Nina. So like I said, we see these cracks forming within this new supervillains tribe, supposedly with Nina, David, and Sam on one side, Haley, Sean on the other side, and Simon just in the middle as the lone wolf. Now he's actually in a great spot, funny enough, because he can go wherever he wants. He can be used as a number for this power struggle that's going to happen come merge. And yeah, he's going to be very valuable. And I could see Simon actually going quite far now, which is funny to think about considering what has transpired this whole season with Simon and the cookie idol that we've gotten so much content out of. And with Nina, like I just mentioned, I anticipate her moving forward with Sam and David and possibly Liz. That's another player I want to bring up from this season, or from this episode rather. So Liz mentions to George and Shawnee that there was going to be a blindside that was going to go down that tribal council. Sam, Nina, and David were working to blindside Haley. But as we all saw in episode 12, it was a mutiny vote. Essentially, if you didn't want to be on that tribe anymore, you could vote yourself. And we saw Liz was the only one that voted herself. She wanted to join the newly formed Heroes tribe, which is comprised of the Spice Girls. Yes, the Spice Girls, being Shawnee, George, and I haven't mentioned him in a while, but Jerry obviously is the Old Spice. They've mentioned that a few times now, so you gotta mention Jerry. But yeah, Liz, it seems like she formed quite the bonds over there with Nina, and she was playing on her own. She wasn't playing with George and Shawnee. So she's forming a game outside of that, and we saw some disagreement, some dissension occurring within the Spice Girls. You hate to see that, but there was a huge vote out this episode. It was either going to be Matt or Flick this episode, and that's not what we got. We didn't get that at all, because Shawnee and Liz had built quite the bond this episode with Flick. Yes, Flick worked her magic, as George would say, the social butterfly that she is. And she overheard Liz mentioning that she was working with Sam, David, and Nina. So, you know what she does in turn? She says that Flick says that she was working with Sam, David, and Nina. Liz likes that answer because she was working with them prior to her leaving the tribe. So, in turn, it seems like Liz wanted to keep that part of her social game strong and wanted to keep Flick in the game, in which we saw the Spice Girls we see the first time this season in which they disagree about what to do moving forward, what should be done. And Shawnee, like I just mentioned, is fully on board with what Liz thinks, that it just opens up more avenues for them moving forward, keeping Flick in the game rather than someone like Matt. And I gotta say, I disagree. I understand George's pitch more, that keeping Matt in the game would be more beneficial to them, because I could see the numbers. It makes sense. However, he was keeping information from the girls, because earlier in the episode, we see Matt go to George and says that he's fully committed to joining their alliance, and that he will work as a mole on the other side to reveal pertinent information to help swing the votes certain ways so that they can charge forward once the merge comes around. And that's a very good pitch from Matt to George. And I mentioned last episode, maybe it was 2 episodes ago, that I thought that deal honestly would be off the table, but that dynamics changed because we see Liz join this tribe, and then we saw the bond grow between her and Flick, which only in turn made George want to get out Flick even more. And the door was still open, of course, then for Matt to come in and pitch that same idea that George initially pitched to him as well, about moving forward with each other. And you cannot talk about this episode without talking about George. Yes, George. Of course, he's a Spice Girl because he really tells you what he wants, what he really, really wants. Yes, we get so many confessionals from George this episode and this whole season about what's going down. He wants to keep Matt. He wants to bring in Haley. He feels like he would have the numbers moving forward come the merge. And he's going to get both of his wishes, but at the expense of losing Stevie. Yes, Stevie is now gone. He was working very closely with the Spice Girls, but was collateral damage in this vote, because at Tribal Council, we see Liz and Shawnee are still dead set on voting out Matt and voting with Flick. And George is the other way, saying he will not vote with Flick, but rather vote against her to send her home. And why would George do that? Because he's played with Flick. They were on Australian Survivor Heroes Brains vs. Bronze. And they voted across 12 tribals together across 2 seasons per Shannon Gus on Twitter. This is as of February 20th, 2023. Or rather, February 19th. So this is I believe, the vote out of Benji. In which, so prior to this last tribal, and they had only voted together in unison once, and George was on the right side of the vote every single time other than that. So I can understand fully why George does not want to work with Flick, because we have a full season of them not working together. So why would he want to keep her in the game knowing that information? We see Liz stronghold George at Tribal Council, saying that she will use her hidden immunity idol on Flick to save her. Yes, we finally see some cracks within the Spice Girls. I don't know how it's going to go moving forward. But George, in turn, is more willing to compromise rather than lose the hidden immunity idol. Calls up Jerry and takes him to the side, asks him, would you rather vote Matt or would you rather vote Stevie? Jerry says Stevie. George tells the girls, would you rather vote would you be down to write Stevie? They're all for it. So then we see Stevie go home. 4-2-1 vote. Yes, Stevie's gone. Both Matt and Flick are somehow still on the beach. I don't know how, to be honest. I think this vote out, it decreases the number for the Spice Girls. They had Stevie. Now the Spice Girls are 4. If you're just saying George, Jerry, Shawnee, and Liz. And now you have hopefully Haley, hopefully Matt, hopefully I don't know. There's so much interdynamics within how this game's going that I don't really know how their alliances are going to be moving forward. We really don't know, other than possibly Sean and Haley sticking together, David, Nina, and Sam working together, and then the Spice Girls. That leaves 3 people on the outside, I guess, that could be swing votes, being Flick, Matt, and Simon. Yes, Flick and Matt, we both know they're more than likely tight with the heroes, but which heroes are they tight to? We don't really know who they're most closely aligned with, because early on in the Survivor season, we got a lot of the Villains Tribe, very little of the Heroes Tribe, and when we did get the Heroes Tribe, we didn't really get to see the interdynamics of how everyone was working together, so we really don't know, because we didn't even really get Sean and Haley working together until they got to this new Supervillains Tribe, along with Nina, David, and Sam. It's new to us this last week or so. So yeah, we'll see how it goes moving forward. We're gonna get a merge. We're getting a merge per the preview episode, so that will be super fun. I do want to make note. So that's I guess my recap of the episode. So moving on from that, I want to make light of the differences in US and Australian Survivor that I've noticed this season. I've really much enjoyed the chatter before, during, and after the challenges. It's something you really don't see in US Survivors at all. Like, at all. We've seen George and Haley chat to each other several times, working together, although they have not been on the same tribe yet. We've seen Shawnee and Liz chat to each other while on separate tribes, being the heroes and villains. We've seen idols pass between Shawnee and Liz, idols pass between Sean and Flick. It's just, I love this. It's something new for me, seeing all of this happening. We just don't see this in US Survivor at all. So I'm very much for it, and I applaud Australian Survivor for allowing it in the game. Something that's very, very cool. Additionally, I like the idea of the rewards. So like this last episode we just saw, very much enjoyed having a reward where one person eats at a time, and you know there's going to be an advantage there. Although we don't know if anyone found the advantage, I would assume they would have showed us if someone found the advantage. But we don't know. We all we saw was Sam flip just about everything there that was there for the sandwich bar. But yeah, I like that dynamic because it can cause some tension within the tribe. Maybe some fractions will start to occur because, hey, maybe someone found an advantage and now you need to try to flush that advantage out of the game. So yeah, I very much enjoy having rewards like that in which it's not so clear about who might have the advantage from the others. So I do very much enjoy that. And now I want to talk about the merge moving forward. So I just mentioned how I think it's going to go down. So we have the 4 Spice Girls being Jerry, George, Liz, and Shawnee. I do see them moving forward together. It seems like that's how it's gonna be. And then we have Nina, David, Sam as a 3. That 3 seems very tight, very strong. I don't see them breaking it all. And then we have a twosome of Sean and Haley. Very interesting one. Could the Spice Girls bring in Sean and Haley to get the numbers? Quite possibly. And that last number might be Simon, to be honest. Yeah, we'll see. And then you have Matt and Flick, of course. So Matt and Flick, like I said, we don't know who they're working with. I don't think they're going to be targets, to be honest, the first few tribals. But we will see. And just the layout for who has idols going into this merge. Sean still has his idol that he found very early on. The only one that's still unknown amongst everybody, nobody knows that he has the idol. And Liz has her idol from the Supervillain speech in which she found. So those are the 2 idols, and everyone knows about her idol. So those are the 2 advantages that we have going in to this newly merged Castaways. So it should be very, very exciting. Yeah, so I anticipate Simon being quite the swing vote. Yes, Simon is the lone wolf, but if everyone wants to vote him out, then he can be used as an asset in that sense. So I anticipate this next episode, episode 14, it's going to be a power struggle. So I mentioned the tribal lines. I think if George is right that Haley is going to work with him moving forward, that they pull in Sean and probably pull in Simon, because if you're pulling in Sean, I'm assuming Simon would be more willing to work with George in that sense. And then you have 7. I'm not sure if Matt and or Flick would also stick with that 7. But that leaves Nina, David, and Sam on the bottom. I think next Tribal Council, we see Sam go home. Yes, that is my prediction. Sam will be voted out of Australian Survivor. Mark it down. I'll be sure to clip this and put it in my recap episode for episode 14 if that's to happen. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, that wraps up what I want to talk about for Australian Survivor episode 13, what I anticipate moving forward. Unsure how I'm going to be doing these episodes moving forward. Obviously, you'll be still receiving them. But previously, like I said, the format was my 5 favorite moments, going through the list. Don't know if I'm going to do that. Probably going to do something more of the likes of a power ranking the remaining contestants. The remaining, we're at 12 contestants. Yeah, 12 castaways are still left in the game. So I might just do a power rankings moving forward, talking about what I thought about what they did this episode, how I can see them moving forward. Probably going to do something like that. So stay tuned. This is, this was really fun. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at PlanVoodooPod. Like, subscribe, follow wherever you're listening, Spotify or YouTube. Let us know, who do you guys think is going to win? We're at the merge. I want to hear from you guys. Let us know. This is Plan Voodoo, where split vote is not safe.